Hello all, I'm going to try and do kind of a new video format here and see if people like it, see if it's helpful. As this tank is growing out a little bit, I'm having to frag a few things, and so I'm going to take a video of it, post it on YouTube, and see if people get something out of it. Today, the thing that we're fragging is this frog spawn. It used to be up here. And as I've been raising my lights to support my SPS better, and we're starting to get closer to 350 par in this area, the frog spawn just wasn't thrilled with it. It was doing fine, but it wasn't opening fully. And so I've moved it down here. And here it's much happier. It loves the flow better, it loves the light better. But what we have is we've got a couple of heads that are actually shadowed under the ridge of this top rock here. And those heads are not opening, they're not happy, they're just not getting any light at all. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and frag them out and sell them for a few bucks to locals. So here's what we're looking at, and I'm hoping this doesn't get too jittery. I'm going to reach over here, and hey, tank tip for you guys, always keep one of these little mag lights right by the tank. It's great for looking at the tank at night, looking for pods and things. Looking for pests especially, and it's even I think it's fully waterproof. If it's not, then I've been a little careless with it, but it's at least water resistant, so it worked great. But we're going to use this, and you can see that up under here, kind of behind that rock, there's a head right in there that's just not getting any light at all. It's completely shadowed by this part here. And that's the one we're going to try and cut out. So I am going to put this back on its tripod. And the plan is to take this rock here off of there. Move this clam over here somewhere. Take this rock off and probably set it up on the top of the overflow box lid. And then once I do, I'll have access to that little head in there. And hopefully it'll be a quick thing to snip it out and glue it onto something else. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way. We'll see. All right, here goes nothing. I have somebody actually coming over to pick up a coral here in a few minutes. And so I'm hoping to get this done before he shows up, otherwise it's gonna be a little awkward. But first step, clam has to go. I'm thinking this guy can hang out right over here for just a moment. I really don't want to take him out of the water because they get a bunch of air inside of them, and then you have to burp them, and that is tough to do, and sometimes it can really hurt them. So I really try and avoid removing clams from the water. I also try to avoid removing sponges from the water if I can, but this is such a big rock, I just don't see a lot of option for that. And to be honest, I've had that sponge out of the water a lot of times already. So now, actually, let me see if I can get you in here a little bit closer. So now, bear with me. If I do a couple of these videos, this kind of stuff will get a lot smoother in the long run. But so you can see, well, you can see a little bit anyway. Right back here, you see this little head here. This is the one that was shadowed. And the first thing I'm going to try and do is get down beneath the skeleton, and I'm just going to get to the very edge of it. I'm not going to try and cut all the way through it, because sometimes I can crush it. What I'm really going to try and do is just fracture it. Oh, well, that did not go well. So I didn't break the coral, but I broke it off of the rock, which is unfortunate and not what I was trying to do. It does, however, make this process an awful lot easier. So I'm going to get this down where you can see it here. Get both my hands in the water. And I'm just going to try my best. Here, I'm going to move the camera so that I can work on this in a more comfortable spot. All right, so we've got this here, and I'm going to try my best to just fracture the skeleton. And if this works well, I won't crush it, because when you crush it, the problem is you can do just what I just did. Now you see what's happened here? This is cracked all the way up and it's cracked into the head. Since I wasn't crunching it completely, this is still savable. I can actually glue that back together. Even if they split apart, sometimes you end up with two. But ideally, I wouldn't have done that. Ideally, this would have come off as one piece. And that's why the diamond wheel is so good for these guys. I'm actually gonna pull this out of the water here to get this last little bit because it's starting to crumble a little bit. All right. Now, if I'm being honest, we have quite a mess. I'm going to set this guy down, and I am going to take this guy back to the back room right now and bring you guys with me. Okay, so here is the situation I find myself in. Is this going to focus? And now it'll focus a little bit better. Here's the situation I find myself in. This actually kind of broke into a bunch of pieces. This is what I was honestly hoping to avoid. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and see what we can do with this. In a perfect world, I would glue it back together, but what I really think I have here is two pieces that really want to be separate. Now, there's this kind of main part and then this kind of main part. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scalpel and I'm actually going to cut them apart because there's kind of two heads in here and I think both are actually going to survive and I can't seem to get them back together. So this is going to separate the two of those and give me hopefully two frags. And what I have here is a new sterile scalpel blade. It's nice to use a sterile one. Be careful when you do this. It's real easy to stick yourself, but it just kind of pops on like that. And then this is going to ensure that I don't damage the tissue anymore by pulling it apart. I'm just going to cut right between. And you see now I sort of have two separate pieces here, both with tissue attached. One of them is two individual pieces. Well, both of them are actually. This one's two individual pieces, but it held together better. Now, I'm going to glue this together so it stays put. And I'm going to try not to separate it too much. I don't want to pull it apart because that's going to rip the tissue and damage the tissue even more. I'm not super concerned about the look just right now. It's more about just kind of splinting it together and making sure it stays happy. This is handy to have around. This is salt water in a little spray bottle. And so it just helps me cure the glue. And this rubber mat here protects the table, and the table's honestly $10 table at Goodwill anyway. So not super worried about it. I'm gonna let that cure for just a second, and I'm gonna grab a couple of things. Be right back. All right, so I've found in the past that people generally prefer frags on little rocks to frag plugs. The frag plugs kind of look ugly in the tank a lot of times, especially if you have a small tank. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue it to here just to give myself a stable base in the aquarium. This is just a standard, 3-inch disc. And then I'm going to glue the frag to the rock. And then when somebody buys it, most of the time I'll just pop the disc off and give them the rock, unless they wanted the disc. So this is pretty straightforward. A bunch of glue. Stick that guy on there. Salt water cures it. I could also use that, what's it called, that spray, but I don't like getting that stuff close to corals. I see a lot of people do it. That's fine. I understand it should be okay, but I don't like it as much. Salt water works great, so that's what I prefer. And then I'm just going to take these guys and stick them down like that. Put a little water on there to cure it, put a little water on the coral. I'm not trying to do this super fast, but I'm also not trying to take forever. So that's cured enough now that I can put it in a real slow flow, low light area in the frag tank. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. And this here is immediately after gluing everything back in. You can see those heads are a little bit shaded too, but they open up far enough that they get plenty of light, I think. So just waiting for it to open back up, and I'm sure it will. You can see my algae blenny here is enjoying life in this hole in the rock. Things never go back together exactly as you had them, but I actually kind of like where the clam is, just a little bit better. It's kind of angled towards the side a little bit better. So overall, pretty positive here, and I'll show you the frags when they open up. So even though what I did with using these bone cutters has worked for me in the past, and should have worked better than it worked in this scenario, when that coral let go from the rock, what I really should have done is taken a pause and used a diamond cutoff wheel. This is not very expensive. It goes onto the Dremel much like the the ones that you use for cutting metal. And you can get a number of these from Amazon relatively cheap, and they just go through skeleton like this, like butter. And they're really, really effective, and I've never had them splinter at all. It's happened a few times with the, bone cutters. It's never happened with this. So honestly, what I should have done is taken a pause at that point and just gone with this, but I didn't. So you guys get an entertaining video, I guess. So this is the next day now, and you can see that this guy isn't much worse for wear. He has pretty good polyp extension. We've got the polyps out here are out far enough to grab the light, and he looks happy as he ever has. So that is really good, and now let's check out the frags. And here we are in the frag tank. Saying they're loving life might be stretching the truth a little bit. However, they are opening, they are extending. I put them under here to put them in a little bit lower flow, and I would actually like to get them in even less flow. I think they're getting beat up a little bit. There's a huge flow pump on this because this tank's mostly SPS. But yeah, overall, they seem alive, and I think they're gonna be just fine. Anyways, that's the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if people are interested in this kind of content, I'll make more. I've got lots more corals I need to frag anyway. Until next time.